Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's your monthly lab with DocSwiner. Thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. I see Miss Michaela's on. Hopefully we'll get some more in the audience joining in. But I am Dr. Nicole Swiner. I'm here in Durham, North Carolina. I am your resident Superwoman Complex expert. I'm going to speak it.
Yes.
Yes. And I am a mom, a wife. Hi, Michelle, Edelyn. Thanks for joining. A mom, a wife, full-time family doc here in the area, and author and speaker where I talk about a myriad of topics, but my love is women's health, mental health, minority health. So I do a monthly blab here, and I do some other things on Facebook Live and on Periscope once a week. So thank you so much for joining. I'm hoping to meet new friends today and spread the word about our ministry of joy, is what I like to call it, just so we can all be happier and healthier in general. I'm gonna get my camera straight. There I am. All right. Thank you so much for joining. So monthly, excuse me, I do different topics. Last month, for instance, we did celebrate June as Men's Health Awareness Month. And so we did something fun with my friend Gerard Droz, who wrote a book on men's health and career and in empowerment. But today, I want to focus on sexual health. I was going to have the theme song. I was going to have Salt and Pepper playing in the background. Let's talk about sex. I figured that'd be kind of corny, so I didn't do that. But
we'll do it
even better than that is my new friend and colleague who I've been a big fan of recently, Miss Tanya Bass. Introduce yourself, young lady, to the world.
Well, good afternoon. I hope I'm looking in the right camera. My camera's a little odd, but my name is Tanya Bass, aka, if you can see, Southern Sexologist. Here in Wake County, Holly Springs, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, and I'm a graduate in public health from North Carolina Central University, studying human sexuality right now at Widener University in Chester, Pennsylvania, and I have about 19, 20 years working in reproductive health, HIV prevention, sexual health. So I'm just glad you had me on today, and a big fan of DocSwiner.
Yay! And so I've been seeing this young lady on social media, and we're kind of in, some similar circles with, strong, empowered women in public health and preventive health and women's health in the Durham area, North Carolina area. And so I've known about her for a while. And then we finally came across one another at North Carolina Central for what was the Women's Health Day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, there's that lady I see who calls herself the Southern Sexologist. I need to meet her. And then she opened up her mouth and her cute little voice came out, and I was like, yeah, I like her. But even more, I like what you're doing. I like what you're teaching, and I like what you're representing in this area. So I'm excited that we're able to finally do something together. So speaking of which, you have a huge event coming up, right?
Yes.
Tell us all about it.
This is the inaugural North Carolina Sexual Health Conference, and it's the first, so that's why I say inaugural. But this conference is trying to bring together sexual health professionals from all aspects: mental health, medical clinicians, HIV prevention, people who do gender work, sexual or intimate partner violence. We all have our own conferences and our own gatherings, and sometimes we intertwine, but we really wanted to try to have a conference to bring all disciplines together to focus on sexuality across the lifespan. So from birth, or actually preconception, all the way down to death, sexuality and aging. So we're just excited, and we are full. Like right now, registration is closed, but we may be taking a few more registrations. But
I'm gonna slide in.
So if you haven't gotten in, if you haven't gotten in, this is the place to be. We have 5 dynamic keynote speakers, both from the national level and right here in good old North Carolina. So we're just excited.
Excellent. So tell us what kind of things I guess, will you have panels? Will you have the speakers that'll be doing keynotes? What's the setup?
So the keynotes are really dynamic, and they're looking at the conference is founded on a model by Dr. Dennis Daly. Like he didn't necessarily create the model, but he solidified it for a lot of sexual health professionals. And many people who do sexual health work don't know the model, and we want to make them familiar. But our keynote speakers, our first is Dr. Chris Donahue, and he has a book, Sex Outside the Lines, and it really just helps you think differently about sexuality and how we condition ourselves and educate ourselves. And we also have Bill Taverner, who's one of my colleagues. He's going to talk about development for health educators. Yeah, one of my colleagues and actually my advisor, Dr. Betsy Crane. She's going to talk about, how did we get to where we are in sexual health? And our two local people, Dr. Bobby Banks, she's going to talk about,
Bobby. That's my friend.
She's going to talk about, and there's a lot of things going on about inclusion and intersectionality and the need for that, or increased need for that in sexual health. So her topic is the illusion of inclusion, exploring sexual health. And our great friend, Mr. Cornell Wright, he's going to bring us home and talk about From the Color Purple to Purple Rain, sexualization and equity in sexual health. And people need to come and stay to the end because we're going to close that conference out with a bang. I'll just give you a hint. No shade in the closing.
Oh, okay. No shade. What does that mean?
Or maybe there will be a little shade in the closing.
What is it? Oh, I'm excited. Now my brain is going. Now I can concentrate on what I want to ask you now. Well, I tell you, Cornell Wright, Bobby Banks, those are two wonderful representations of, again, preventative health, minority health, minority representation in business and medicine in the world, especially here in North Carolina, and clearly they are worldwide. So y'all need to catch them if you can. Hello to my folks that are chiming in, by the way. I see Miss Lisa, Miss Wives on Purpose. I see another friend just joined in. Thank you so much for joining. Share this out with your Twitter followers. I see y'all are giving some likes and some props. I like that. You see that? We're teaching Tanya about blab, y'all. So these little hands here, when they clap those hands and put them up, that means they like what we're saying.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. Can I do that?
Do it. You can do it over here to me. You can clap, 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 clap. I guess you can't clap for yourself. You can clap for the other person. Okay. Okay. And Lisa says it's teaching me too. That's right, Miss Lisa. We going to get this social media thing going. We just had a conversation about using social media to get your message out. And it's so much fun. You can't be afraid of the camera. You got to jump out there. You got to meet people, you got to network, and you got to do it in front of folks. So it's been a lot of fun. So I love this type of a format where we get to talk live to people. So please, guys, ask questions if you have them. Share your insights, share your information with each other, your website, so we can stay connected. But even more importantly, Ms. Tanya, so how did you even get interested in this field, this career? Like, how did you become the Southern Sexologist?
Well, I mean, it literally started 20 some years ago as an undergrad student. When I graduated, I had a real desire to work in sexual health. At that time, HIV in the 90s or so, was still, coming out more. And so I wanted to do more about it. And my first job was at the American Sexual Health Association, and it's a national association, but it's right here in Durham. Really? Yes, I think it's Cornwallis and Alston or wherever down in that way. But they used to have a sexual health STD hotline and an HIV hotline, and I worked at the STD hotline. And from that point on, I just kept maneuvering into working with HIV prevention, working with people living with HIV and peer education. Then I started dabbling more in outside of prevention, but looking at intimacy and understanding human growth and development in terms of sexuality. I mean, it's all about our brains, but a lot of times we think it's all in our pants. But if it's not working up here, or if you don't understand it up here, it's going to be difficult to maneuver your sexuality.
Correct. Yeah. And so since you've been working specifically in the HIV community, since you've been working, by the way, do you know my friend, Dr. Allison Matthews?
Absolutely. To Be in HIV. She's one of our presenters.
That's right. To beat HIV. She has done a phenomenal. I'm so proud of the work that she's doing with, via UNC with her grant. Working with that. She's in South Africa, or she may be back from South Africa with the HIV conference that was there. But she has done phenomenal work in spreading the word via using social media and using the internet as the vehicle to spread the word about HIV prevention and finding a cure. So big deal. What do you think is the most important for people to know, or most important thing for people to know right now about HIV prevention?
I think the biggest thing to know is that HIV is still in existence and people can still transmit it. But we know enough now to do everything and anything to prevent it. We've moved from just, being abstinent, being monogamous and using condoms to now, just like with the work Allison is doing towards the cure, we have preventative measures and medications that people can use if they're in what we call, the medical term is serodiscordant. But if you're in a relationship or having sex with someone who may be HIV positive, the PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, can actually be another form of prevention. So it's scary, but it's not this big scary thing that we don't know about. We have enough information to fight it and find a cure.
And thankfully, there are those who have been infected or been diagnosed who are living much longer, healthier, better quality of lives, just because of the research that has been done. And PrEP is a huge deal. Like it's the correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of the first real step in the way of truly preventing or even treating HIV, or curing, may I say, because we have plenty of retroviral type treatments, but curing it, I mean it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. So I'm very happy about that. But as always, prevention is key. As a family doc, I talk prevention all day long. Coming in and get your checkups so you can get your this and that, get your pap smears, get your mammograms, get your colonoscopy, so that we can prevent and find things early, getting your vaccinations. And, people feel, certain types of ways about vaccinations, but getting, prevention, we want to catch something, we want to prevent getting something before you're exposed. And so, the moves that we made, that you all have made in the HIV world are life-saving. And I think that's phenomenal. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask. Yes, excellent. Ms. Lisa saying 1990s is when entered into public health too. So yeah, my friend Lisa, who has a program called Wives on Purpose, is talking about our public health background. I didn't know you went to UNCG. Okay, good. HIV was a launching pad for many. So glad you stuck with it. Yes, wonderful. So yeah, I am definitely a fan of the movement. So let me ask you this. So when it comes to sexuality, what is normal, quote unquote? Because normal can be defined, there's a lot of different normals, but when it comes to sexuality, what is normal? What does that mean?
And that's one of the biggest misconceptions. Like, am I normal? Most people, if you think about when we were all, because we all did go through puberty, we wanted to know if we were normal. Was this the right size? Is this going to get any bigger? We're comparing ourselves to each other, and we wanted to be normal. That whatever so and such had, we wanted to have. Yeah. And so there is no normal. I mean, ultimately, we're sexual from birth to death. Our feelings are valid. Our feelings and our desires are natural. So I can't really say, we try not to say something is abnormal, because that's shameful. We teach and have learned to think that if you're not like someone else, then you're not normal. Something's wrong with you. And for sexuality, what's normal for you may not be normal for me.
Correct. Hello, YFCNC.
Oh, that's my old project, Young Family Connect.
Hi, old project?
Yeah.
Welcome. Michelle Edelin says, just saw straight out of Compton, and Eazy-E was given a death sentence. So this was back in the 80s or 90s when he was diagnosed. Mm-hmm. There have been so many strides made to help. I'm telling you. And you're right. And welcome, YFCNC. So yeah, when people were diagnosed in the 70s, 80s, not even when it was this kind of mysterious unknown disease, we didn't have any treatment. And people, because we didn't know about it, we weren't getting tested, and we weren't necessarily preventing. Like, we knew something was out there. Like, it was not a good idea to be having, promiscuous sex unprotected and all that. But this thing, this cancer, this, because they called it quote unquote cancer for a while. They called it quote unquote some unknown infection, was just killing people left and right. And so the fact that we know how to prevent it, like there are tried and true ways to prevent it, is major. We have to make a change.
Yeah.
So you talked about sexuality being an issue from birth to death, and as children, changes of our bodies and our psyche and all that. But clearly there's a very unfortunate and scary thing that can happen as far as sexual abuse is concerned, especially to young folks at any age, but definitely at young folks. What would you say about child sexual abuse determining your sexual orientation? That's been very controversial lately.
Right now, like most people are talking about trauma-informed care, trauma-informed approaches, and a lot of it is rooted in child sexual trauma, child sexual abuse. And there's so many myths about sexual abuse determining or helping, I don't say helping, but causing people to be gay or bisexual or asexual. Right. And it's a myth. And the sad part about that is predators, they know that stigma is out there. So if your predator or abuser is the same sex as you, here's the part that's important. Like I said, we're sexual from birth to death. Your body, whether you wanted this sexual encounter to occur or not, because it's up here functioning, the abuse, your body's going to respond. So not to be too detailed, but if you're a male and you're abused, you're going to ejaculate because that's how your body works. An abuser can say that you liked it, because you wouldn't have ejaculated if you didn't. And so that causes not only say victim, I'm going to say the survivor, the person who experienced the trauma may start thinking and questioning their own sexual orientation and sexuality because of an experience. But that experience can't turn you or make you gay, but that's the stigma around it. And that's a lot of reasons why men especially don't report sexual trauma, because of that shame. It's more shameful to come to tell and then be identified as gay than it is just to tell.
Yeah, and the whole abuse thing. I have 2 little girls, 2 toddlers, and it gives me the willies and keeps me awake at night to think of someone, touching them in an inappropriate way and harming them in any kind of inappropriate way. And so much so that, Price is 5, we started having the conversation about inappropriate touching when she was 3.
Hello,
right?
Yes.
You probably should even do it sooner than that. But, I felt it was timely because, we have some babysitters that come and she's in preschool. And so I was nervous, but, I was fearful that, something could potentially happen. So we started talking about what are your private areas, who's to touch, who's not to touch, so we started having those conversations very, very early. Tell me, is it okay, do you think, or when is the right time to start talking to your kids about sexuality, privates, puberty? When, help the parents that are cringing in their seats right now.
Yeah. Well, I think that the parents have to get comfortable, just like you said. Like you're looking at your young girls, and they are going to be women, and you want to protect them. The best thing is starting the communication early, using appropriate language. Like there's age appropriate things. There are a lot of books and curriculum materials out there that you can use. You might go in the bathroom and scream after the conversation and cry or whatever, but you have to be cool, calm, and collected and let them know I am here with you. Even your example, with private parts, like we start teaching the proper terminology. Like it's okay for your daughters to know they have a vulva, because if, God forbid, something were to happen, you don't want them to say, we talked about this in one of my classes yesterday, Uncle so-and-such was touching my pocketbook. So as a parent, you're like, well, you don't have any money, he can touch your pocketbook. But if you've taught your child to say that's their pocketbook and it's their vulva or genital area, it's confusing. Yeah.
I know.
And so
Yeah,
Your whole
go ahead.
body. Well, I was gonna say your whole body is private.
Yeah.
Sexual predators also don't start by touching the genital area. So you need to say, if you're touching your arm, that's still your private part. Don't touch me
That's
without
right.
my consent. I know in my family and culturally, and I'm sure it crosses all cultures. You want to hug Uncle Timmy and hug Aunt Sue, and if your child says no, let it be no. Like,
Good point. Yes.
and God bless Santa Claus. I don't believe in him, but stop sitting your kids on some stranger's lap and telling them your hopes and dreams. You don't know that man.
There
So
you go.
it's like we send mixed messages when we say, well, no one's supposed to touch your private parts or touch you here, but then we push them to have a relationship with strangers or relatives that we have no idea what they could potentially do to our children. So I always say early and often.
I'm telling you, I trust my kids' intuition.
Yes.
And so, and poor little Blake, we like to tease and call her the little angry one, but Price is the loving, I don't know a stranger, so I actually kind of worry about her a little bit. We have to teach her some boundaries, but Blake, you have to earn her trust and earn her love. She can smell you a mile away. If she don't like you, she'll say no in a minute. And I'm like, okay, I trust that.
That's right.
And sometimes my husband's like, no, give so-and-so a hug and kiss and say hi. I'm like, she's good. She don't, let her figure that out.
Love them from afar.
Right. And she'll watch you and observe you, and then later on she's like, okay, well, I see mommy and daddy, they're sitting next to them and being okay, I might come sit next to them. Let me figure them out. But kids have an intuition, and if they don't feel a certain vibe, don't force them to do that. And that's been interesting to learn now that I am a parent, letting them kind of lead the way with that. And you just have to be aware, man, just the world, just with things happening. You just have to be ultra aware. So much so that at least twice a week I ask my big girl, I ask Price, has anyone touched these areas? And she's like, no, mommy. She's like, I will tell you. I'm like, all right. So I'm ingraining that. I'm ingraining that. So some of these wonderful comments here. Let's see. So everybody's saying amen, amen. The conversation should occur ongoingly, regular conversations. Yes. Lisa says, bring it back up in puberty. so talk about it, but then have another one at puberty so you can use those big words.
Just keep talking about it. Don't stop. There's a continuous conversation, not the talk.
Right. That's right. Is it Jay Get Rumor? I'm going to mispronounce it, but she says hashtag body sovereignty. That's right. Good advice. Tanya, Michelle Edelin says y'all had a conversation before they had children or before they talked to their children. It was a big help. Yeah, you just gotta be open. You just gotta be open.
Yeah.
No matter how, like you said, I think there have been plenty of times I wanted to go and grab a pillow and scream after I had the conversation. But I would much rather scream then than later if something happened, right?
Yeah.
Welcome, Sexpert. Welcome to the conversation. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget. Hi. Make sure to share this out with your Twitter friends. So let's think of some other questions. What do you think makes us sexual beings besides being able to express ourselves physically? What else?
Oh, yeah. So that's what I was saying about the circles of sexuality, that model or understanding our brain. I mean, just like going back birth to death, like that's my new phrase, is that when you are a child, like if you're a breastfeeding mom or you breastfed, that impacted your sexuality and your child's sexuality. Now people get all like freaked out, but it's about the intimacy. So being able to be intimate and share and create boundaries and communicate effectively, that's who we are sexually as well. The way we express ourselves, like some days I tap into what I believe is my masculinity. So I might wear a bow tie and a skirt together. Like that's good. That's okay for me. So the way I dress, everything, how I talk, or if, think about, I think most of the people up here right now are women, but how we even handle ourselves in a business setting. And someone may think, you're that, that word, because you're asserting yourself. But if you were a man, thinking about gender roles and gender expectations, they would expect that from a man. So why shouldn't you assert yourself?
Right.
So everything makes us, our culture, the way our families raised us, the decisions we make after we start developing our own values, all of that is our sexuality.
Correct. And the roles that we play can be fluid. You don't have to subscribe to one, particular way. I want to carry myself in this way. I want to dress this way. You can be fluid as long as you're comfortable. People will just have to understand you for who you are.
Absolutely.
It's their problem, not yours. So tell me about social media. So we've talked about, Dr. Allison, who is with 2B HIV. She's, I think has risen to like pioneer level in spreading the gospel about HIV prevention and sexual health via social media. How do you think technology and social media has changed how we view sexuality, how we are trying to prevent disease and illness? Like, tell me about that.
I think at first when we started having more platforms and networks to use, it freaked out people who are doing prevention work, especially. I think now, especially like educators, like I see Tayomi up here, like she's a queen of educating people in my mind on sensuality and intimacy, utilizing social media and having classes. And even like our conversation right now is through a social media platform. We started having these hashtag outbreaks. I'm gonna call them an outbreak. It's like Man Crush Monday and Women Crush Wednesday. I don't know. Yeah. And then the big thing that people almost fell out over was Eggplant Friday, like pictures of penises and and then recently we had an increased number of syphilis cases in Wake County, and a lot of it was due to people Tinder and Grindr, and I don't know if you heard that part, but Tinder and Grindr were connected to some of the syphilis outbreaks, and people are like, oh, well, we're blaming these applications. But be clear, a person getting syphilis or having sex is about the person. The application might have made it easier for them to meet someone, but it's all about human behavior. So, we have to just realize that people are going to do what they want to do, express themselves the way they want. We just want to help them do it safely and in an educated way. Mm-hmm. So I think now it's on the upside.
Yeah. So there's a lot more access to good things and bad things. You just have to make the right choices. Kind of as a sidebar, especially for my ladies that are on with our conversation now, because, I'm a family doc, I do physical, I see kids from the cradle to the grave, et cetera, and do, clearly adolescent health and talk about birth control and all this stuff. Is it a bad thing to talk about condoms? Is it a bad thing to talk about birth control when they're starting middle school? I've had people get really upset. Some of the schools have condoms in the school, have condoms in student health. The nurses will, hand out condoms because they think it's a good thing. Is that such a bad thing?
I don't think so. And you may be more familiar, I think I'm going to say it right. The American Academy of Pediatrics just came out with a statement saying doctors need to talk to their patients, their pediatric patients, about sex and sexuality. And if you think about this, just like the education in school, so, okay, you have your values and your expectations in home. You should communicate those in a way that your child understands. If they go to school and they get sexuality education, that's going to balance out with your values and standards. If they go to the doctor and the doctor is talking to them, and you think about those consistent messages and those opportunities to say, oh, so it's not a bad thing to talk about it or whatever. And, kids are going to do what kids do. And so if they can do it in a protective way, and some people, abstinence is great. Abstinence isn't for everyone, and it isn't a choice that can remain with everyone. We just talked about child sexual abuse. Sometimes there are people who want to be abstinent, but that choice was taken away from them. If they're educated to at least know to use a condom, and even in a violent, abusive situation, that's still protecting them from some of the physical aspects of sexual trauma. So I'm all for it, but
I have plenty of parents who I think the tables are turning now, or the tide is turning now. I mean, I've had plenty of parents have the argument that if I put my child on birth control or if I talk about condoms, it gives them the okay to do it. And I was like, in my mind, I'm saying, well, they're doing it anyway. You don't want to say that.
Right.
I was like, because I treated her for chlamydia last month. I didn't tell you, but we did,
Yeah.
So, as parents, just just be real. Remember where you were as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, what your friends were talking about, what y'all were experimenting with. Keep it real with your children. It can prevent pregnancy. It can prevent long-lasting, HIV, herpes, sometimes syphilis. This stuff doesn't go away. HPV, which is cancer linked. This stuff doesn't go away. So let's prevent and be real about it. Well, guess what?
Yes.
That was a quick half hour. How fast did that go? You ladies survived. She was so nervous. So for the last couple of seconds, tell people how they can stay connected with you and find you if they're looking for your services.
Yes, I have a website. I think I put it in the chat. It's TanyaBass.com. You can email me at Tanya at TanyaBass.com. I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and just look me up. If I don't have the answers, there are so many other sexual health experts in the area. Somebody will hook you up with some type of service or support if you need it.
Correct. Hi, Milton. A guy came, and of course, at the end, Scoot, you all late. No, just kidding. Hello, I want to call you out. I love you. So, thank y'all. So, watch the replay, Milton. All right. Thank y'all so much for joining us. I am DocSwiner. He said I logged in at 12:06. You missed it. I am DocSwiner. Thank you so much for joining us, Miss Tanya Bass. Over here, she may be over here, depending on which way the boxes are. The Southern Sexologist, thank you so much for sharing that good gospel, that good information on how we prevent disease and how we talk real about sexual health. Y'all come out if you can. If it's already sold out, if it is sold out, oh well. NC SexCon. Yeah. Milton says Jordan, crying face. You can watch the replay. Don't worry. We'll have another conversation later. I am DocSwiner. You can catch me at DocSwiner.com. This poster behind me is talking about my book that hopefully today I hear good news about printing.
Yeah.
Book number 2. Oh my gosh. We can't get this thing out fast enough, but it's coming soon. So stay in touch with me on social media. Yes, SexCon, great interview. Thanks, guys. Join me. I do this monthly, and maybe we'll have Southern Sexologist back. Okay.
Awesome.
See
Thank
y'all
you
later.
later.
Bye.